Greetings and welcome, my fellow companions, to part 20 of the RFEFP series, The Compass. Science is organised knowledge, friends, really. And science is a wonderful thing if one does not have to earn one's living at it. So let's jump straight into this. A compass is an instrument used for navigation and orientation on our plain Earth today. It shows direction relative to the geographic cardinal directions or points on the plane. Usually a diagram called a compass rose shows the directions north, south, east and west on the compass face as abbreviated initials. When the compass is used, the rose can be aligned with the corresponding geographic directions. For example, the N mark on the rose points northward. Compasses often display markings for angles in degrees in addition, or sometimes instead of, the rose. North corresponds to 0 degrees, and the angles increase clockwise. So east is 90 degrees, south is 180 degrees, and west is 270 degrees, like the face of your clock. These numbers allow the compass to show azimuths or bearings, which are commonly stated in this notation. All compasses point to a single magnetic meet point. The 4 great inventions of ancient China are significant contributions of the Chinese nation to world civilization, friends. Among the 4 great inventions, papermaking, printing, gunpowder, and of course the compass. Yet the magnetic compass was not at first used for navigation, but geomancy and fortune telling by the ancient Chinese peoples, as early as the Han Dynasty since 206 BC, and thus later adopted for navigation by the Song Dynasty during the 11th century. The first usage of a compass recorded in Western European and the Islamic world occurred around 1190, and then jumped to today, 2020. Not much needed to change on the inside regarding the magnetic locations. We have FOG compasses, to name but one, yet all of them, new and old, simply rely on the EM force surrounding us back then and also right now. A fibre optic gyro compass is part of a ship's set of compasses. This just comprises a fibre optic gyroscope sensor which links to a computer and then locates north. It in turn links to a magnetic compass readout to provide the heading. It has very high reliability and requires little maintenance during its service life. And I wonder why, friends. It's often linked with the ship's other navigational devices, including land-based GPS or PPS, plane positioning system. The magnetic compass is still a very important advance in navigation because it allows mariners to determine their direction even if clouds obscure their usual astronomical cues, such as the North Star Polaris. It uses a magnetic needle that can turn freely so that it always points to the North Pole of Earth's magnetic field, the only one. Yet the compass, or any type of relation to the compass, gyroscope, sextant, etc., they all can't work on a spinning globed ball Earth. I try to explain this from a geocentric point of view, as I do not see a cartoon ball Earth anymore, just a real flat plain Earth with an ice border boundary. So let's try to explain it in simple science how I believe the workings to be. When the ice crystallizes in the ice wall at the perimeter of the plane and the ice shelf in the center of the plane, the North Pole, the water molecules line up. Now many tiny electrical charges lined up is sufficient enough, friends, to generate an electromagnetic field from the center of the plane to the perimeter. Here you can see Tesla's model of it working perfectly, as were many of his inventions and calculations. His equations all worked first time, tried, tested, repeated. The north at the center point, the apex source of it, and the south point being the entire border. Water is a polar molecule. There are two hydrogen atoms and the oxygen atom. The electrical charge is unevenly distributed along the axis between the two hydrogen atoms. So if you line up a bunch of water molecules, remember, friends, molecules lined up in a patterned formation when they form into crystals. It makes perfect sense that the lined up charges would additively combine to make a much larger electrical charge. So the fact that the 72% water is salty, it's saline water, salt water, and the ice may lose some salinity as it is formed, could this not generate the electromagnetic field? Because the main geomagnetic field of the Earth is produced by the flow of electrically charged particles in the 72% saline liquid on Earth. Our magnetic fields produce an electrical current. This is known as Faraday's law. Magnetism produced by electricity is simply called electromagnetism. All of the entire known magnetic fields of our plane Earth meet here at one apex source of it, at the North Monopole, the mountain. We all covered this in part 15 of the series. Science knows, friends, that salt water is the most conductive surface on the plane for electromagnetic energy. This is why it is 72% salt water and not drinking water. So the science can all work together in harmony, friends. The Earth is one unique, gigantic factory. It's the only one, friends, that has life and water anywhere in the so-called heliosolar system world. Isn't that strange? But we're destroying it with pollution and wars and corruption, greed, money, power. Water is the element which brings life. Electrons are negative, protons are positive, neutrons are neutral. Electromagnetic energy is absolutely everywhere, provided by the sun and the moon and salt water here on plain Earth. And I mean it's everywhere. EME is the term used to describe all the different kinds of energies released here on plain Earth, from the radio waves and TV waves and radar waves to heat, light, ultraviolet light, X-rays, short waves, microwaves, gamma rays, all producing electromagnetic waves and frequencies that do so many wonderful things and different things. And then we have the electromagnetic spectrum. All of the devices, all of the technology, subsequently, this is known as quantum mechanics, the study of these energies. The Earth's EM force performs like a ring magnet, as I have explained in previous uploads, and why our normal compasses work the way they do with the earthbound magnetism. Simple, easy, everything we know on plain Earth, and whatever we do today, whatever we do tomorrow, next week or year, friends, we are all living, breathing, working all inside of this ring magnet, this electromagnetic earth field already, and adhering to the EM force that we have all around us every day. Nobody really understands all of it properly, but Tesla was certainly on board with it. That is for sure, friends. There is no direct source of magnetism from any south pole unless it's the one that encircles, as you can see again. Earth has a highly charged electromagnetic energy. This is why the compass works, friends, and did and has done for many millennia. All around the plain Earth land, as well as all the other tech now in 2020, all relying on this EM force. Earth relies on its mechanics working perfectly to achieve its ultimate goal, the sun being the anode and the moon being the cathode. The 72% salt water is the electrolyte. Utterly amazing. We have only one. There can be but only one, friends. Geocentric, very special, magnetic eco-battery system Earth that relies on the EM force and not a gravity-style force, and thus incredible array of complex systems built on systems that have been created for this amazing purpose of life being birthed here in the midst of it all, surrounded by plain sciences yet to uncover and hidden magnetic mysteries yet to unfold, while navigators, ships, sailors, plain Earth, sailing and flying will all circumnavigate with a simple compass and a plain flat map that is 2D around your plain flat Earth. Yes, my friends, you have guessed it. This is why the compass, and very importantly, friends, the EM force will always be a real flat Earth fact on the plane. Thank you for watching this upload and spending your time with me, friends, as with all of my uploads, we should never judge the book by the cover. Already looking forward to part 21. I'll see you all then. Much love and keep safe. You stay flat. The best way to find yourself, my friends, is to lose yourself in the service of others. And I try to incorporate this into my everyday life. So I welcome you and all of the new subscribers to part 15 of this RFEFP series, the Polar North, also known as the North Pole. Now, this is our Earth's only magnetic monopole of inaccessibility that sits at the dead centre of the Arctic Ocean, that has long been very high of interest to scientists, adventurers, scholars, and of the ancients. And why, one may be asking? Because it's there, my friends. It's very real. 3,000 years BC, the Egyptians, the Arabs, and the Greeks all correctly believed that the heavens revolved around Earth's northernmost point, located directly under a star that the Greeks had called Polaris. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you really are. The North Pole is a very special and unusual destination on the plain Earth, as the pole is really a magnetic monopole. But they do say, contemporary scientists, that magnetic monopoles are not really real. They are just hypothetical elementary particles that is an isolated magnet with only one magnetic pole. So it would be impossible to make a magnetic monopole from a bar magnet. But my friends, we do not live on a bar magnet, do we? No, we most certainly do not. Ring magnets, which are actually shaped like a flat disc, are capable of having radial and electromagnetism. So one magnetic pole is at the centre and all subsequent points out to the border surrounding it. And so, my friends on the plane, our Earth does have a border and not an edge. Now, a magnet like this can be found in loudspeakers and perfectly replicates what is found on the Earth without the obvious, my friends. The Earth is an incredible magnetic eco-battery system with one magnetic monopole at the dead centre. This is why the oceans are made of salt water and not drinking water. The sun provides the anode and the moon provides the cathode. It provides the correct necessary ingredients for the electromagnetic science to work perfectly. The magnetic fields can produce an electric current, and this is known as Faraday's law. And magnetism produced by electricity is called electromagnetism. And all of the entire known magnetic fields of our plain Earth all meet here together at the apex source of it all, at the North Monopole. This is a fact. And it's obviously the cause for the spectacular Northern Lights display. And even way back in 1600, William Gilbert published De Magnete, in which he concluded that the Earth behaved as a giant magnet. And to bring Tesla into this, we could actually call it magnetricity or ether magnetism. So the Arctic monopole of inaccessibility, well, the easiest way to think about the pole is in terms of radii. So it's a point that it is precisely equidistant from three faraway coastlines. It is exactly 626 miles from three different islands: Ellesmere Island at the northern tip of Canada, Komsomolets Island in Russia's Severinaia Zemlya archipelago, and Henrietta Island in the East Siberian Sea. So in other terms, if you were to draw the biggest circle possible that the Arctic Ocean could contain, the pole would be at the point at its dead centre. So with the North Pole at the centre, Antarctica is around the outer rim of the Earth, providing what we call the border, the boundary of Earth. So the continents are spread out around the North Pole. There is a landmass that's directly below the bottom of Argentina and the Falklands, which is known to most as the so-called continent of Antarctica. But this is not true. It's just a very large piece of landmass with staggering importance. Over 70 scientific stations are based here all year round. So just like the Arctic North Pole is a very, very special place on Earth, this is not a continent. And so Antarctica is not a continent either. Just like, my friends, there is no yesterday and there is no tomorrow. There is really, only as you watch this, the now. So circumnavigation on our plain Earth can only be correctly achieved because on a compass, east and west are always at right angles to north. Travelling eastwards continuously takes you in a circle around the North Pole. Regardless of the distance, anywhere on the plain Earth, the principles will still remain the same. Using a compass or a gyro compass, or simply looking at Polaris as a reference for eastwards or westwards travel, it will always take the navigator in a broad circle around the North Pole. This is another very real fact. There is only one point that is fixed, my friends, and that's the north. It is impossible for any other point to be fixed, as the south point of the compass shifts round to all parts of the circular boundary. So the directions east and west crossing this line continued to form a circle at any given latitude. A westerly circumnavigation is going around with the North Star continuously on the right hand side, and an easterly circumnavigation is going around with the reverse condition is maintained, so the North Star being on the left hand side as the journey is made. This is very simple, but unipolar magnets cannot exist here on plain Earth because in layman's terms we only have one very special magnetic monopole, and it's what Polaris, our very famous North Star beacon, sits directly under every single night, and she has done for millennia and will continue to do so long after we have left this plain Earth. Now, electric monopoles are everywhere. You've seen them with your own two eyes. But the North Magnetic Monopole is something we are never likely to see. But it's there, my friend. The secrets of electromagnetism and its power are waiting to be discovered. It's the very reason why it's part 15 of this series. It's there, it's real, and it's a real flat Earth fact on the plane. Today's mainstream science will try to explain that the North Pole is on the move. It's unpredictably lurching away from the Canadian Arctic towards Siberia. So maybe we should keep an all-seeing eye on that, my friends, and also see if Polaris is also on the move. I would really like to thank you for your time and your attention. If you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe and the notification bell. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Almost finished the special video we have planned for this year. It should be ready in the coming weeks. I don't want to give anything definite away as time, well, let's just say punctuality is the thief of time. I'll see you in part 16 though. You take care. Hello and welcome, my flat friends, and to the new subscribers to part 17 of this RFEFP series. Decoration. I'm sort of having a little bit of trouble saying that at the moment. I know I haven't made an upload for a few weeks. There has been a lot of sickness in the family, and I've also been out of action for a few weeks, which brings me to this special time of year and decoration and the activity of making something look more attractive by putting things on it or around it, or something that you use to do this. So globes are only meant for decorative purposes and certainly not for educational purposes. And if you were to go to a store or a shop, you may come across globes that actually have stickers that say they are not for educational purposes and only decorative purposes. Maybe you've seen them. Now, Google actually answers because they may actually be out of date. The national boundaries might be changed, the distances might be the only approximately, and may lack the accuracy required to be used for education. And this was submitted on the 28th of December 2018. Now, mainstream science explains that globes are more accurate than a flat map because they mimic the true shape of the Earth, and they're able to accurately portray continent shapes and distance between the land masses. So, which one is it? Because for a start, we're only left with the Mercator and the Gulpeters projections, where Greenland appears to be roughly the same size as Africa. And in reality, Greenland is 2 million square kilometers bigger, and Africa is 30 million square kilometers, nearly 14.5 times larger. Now, these are facts. So why are these maps shown everywhere? I saw it myself on the news this morning, used as education and as correct representations of the continents and the countries of Earth. So what is the answer to this? The thing is though, folks, all cartographers, even the globe carties, agree that the Mercator map is outdated, it's inaccurate, and is not the best way to represent the world's landmasses. And they've been calling for the use of a new projection since the 1940s, and were actually subsequently given one in 1999, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. However, the biggest insult to cartographers is the Peters projection itself, because it's essentially the same map devised in 1855 by a cartographer called James Goll. Many have recognised the similarity, and you'll often see the Peters map called the Goll-Peters projection. They're just more misrepresentations of the Earth because they're also very wrong. So it's no wonder we've got so many problems trying to break through each layer of the globe mantle when one is talking flat Earth science, debating, or dare I say mass debating, over whether the azimuthal equidistant map is the correct representations for the Earth's continents. As mentioned, with Africa being much larger and Australia being much bigger on the AE map, because she's obviously an island and a continent. Yet the major one is Antarctica, as she is shown as an entire circle wall of ice, with the shelves at essentially the top and the bottom, if you're on the side. And this wall of ice, if you will, encloses the continents of the Earth. So the killer question, and to every single person out there who believes that the AE map, the azimuthal equidistant projection, really is a globe on a flat projection, this looks completely nothing like the orthograph world map. As you can see, this projection, since 1999, the orthograph world map is supposed to be the most accurate, the most perfect representation of the Earth and its countries. For all you globe believers out there, this is hands down it for you, the most accurate map projection in existence. According to the mainstream science, the orthograph world map is so proportionately perfect in every way. because it magically folds into a three-dimensional globe and was created by an origami expert, a Japanese architect, Hajime Narukawa. And he invented the projection way back in 1999 by equally dividing a spherical surface into 96 spherical triangles, folding it into a globe. We can talk and digress regarding the accuracy of the calculation accuracy of spherical trigonometry over plane trigonometry. But the biggest downfall for the orthograph map is that the longitude and latitude lines are no longer a tidy grid, certainly don't work on a compass, and the continents on the map are repositioned in a way that would be so unfamiliar to a general population who is already geographically challenged. However, there is something else here though. This map, my friends, this orthograph world map, looks absolutely nothing like the azimuthal equidistant projection, does it? Flattened out. Even if we try to circulate, this projection could not look more different. And pray tell, why has nobody ever heard of this map before? Did you? Before watching? Now, it's nowhere in the educational systems here, unless you went to search for it. And why do you think the map gets no mainstream attention or any press releases in any recent times if it is so proportionately perfect in every way? Why nobody has ever heard of it, and certainly not what the phone triangulation or GPS uses to circulate and circumnavigate this plane Earth in a circle, a very large circle, but a circle nonetheless, or any real Earth organisation would adopt this map. Because it's not real. It may be good enough to win a Japanese prize as a clever fooling tool, and finally somebody managed to fold it up into a ball. But it just had to be an origami specialist, as people tend to win quite a lot of things for, this very clever fooling technique. And this is why globes are only meant for decorative purposes, even ones that fold out into a globe. Because very quickly, if we were to go back to the 40s, the creation of the UN logo, the azimuthal equidistant projection, the map itself made 1,000 years ago, but was used as their emblem. When the design consisted of a circular representation of the map of the world and not a globe. The Secretary General subsequently encouraged the Assembly to adopt a design that would become the official seal. And so on December the 7th in 1946, the Assembly approved the modified version of the San Francisco design. Now, do you think they considered using a globe as an emblem? They must have had so many designs to ponder over and peruse through. But this is the United Nations. So the final draft consists of the map of the world on a polar azimuthally equidistant projection, surrounded by 2 olive branches, and so the map itself created over 1,000 years ago. And the 2 symbols speak for themselves. The olive branch is a symbol of peace, and the world map represents the organisation in its quest to attain world peace. A map of the world as seen by the only north magnetic pole as a polar projection. This map is for educational purposes, the United Nations and all of its agencies, my friends, they spend around 30 billion each year. The United Nations has 193 member states, all of which pay yearly into the organisation. So they will always use the correct map of Earth. Now, if one was to type in, what is the meaning of the UN logo? And as you can see, word for word, the map symbolises the UN's global area of concern and the olive branches symbolise peace. The United Nations logo represents the map of our flat Earth. In plain, simple English. Now, obviously we know Google is not the most reliable source of information, but it certainly serves its purposes for things like this. Now think of the Earth as the land, sea and air. And yet all of the major organisations for the land, sea and air all use the azimuthal equidistant projection as their symbol. So if you were to think about the land as the United Nations, being the Earth's continents surrounded by 72% water, the sea being the World Meteorological Organization. Their symbol is the map with a compass rose right at the top where Polaris sits, kind of perfectly directly below the only north magnetic pole, the polar projection of Earth. Now, this organisation provides details of temperatures and extreme weather events and provides information on long-term climate change indicators, including atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases, sea level rise, and sea ice extent. And finally, the air, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. So it codifies the principles and techniques of international air navigation and fosters the planning and development of international air transport to ensure safe and orderly growth. They use a pilot's wings on an azimuthal equidistant map as their symbol. So what does one need for more proof of a map when there are three right there? Land, sea and air. Globes are only used for decorative purposes and maybe target practice, but they are definitely not for any such educational purpose, as the azimuthal equidistant projection really is. Because the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in simply having new eyes. Thank you very much for your time with me here today on this upload. Remember, if you're fighting for the globe and you want a flat map of it, please stop looking at the azimuthal equidistant projection, trying to convince yourself that this is the globe flattened out, because it's not. You need to go and get yourself an orthograph world map from 1999. You will still be a long way off, but you will still fit in with the sheeple. And maybe ask your friends and family if they ever recognise this orthograph world map. But I'm sure they've seen the UN and the UN logo, because it's there, it's real, and it's flat. Every beauty needs her beast. Thank you. I will see you in part 18. Lots of love and luck to you all. This was Nibi, and I wish you all the luck and love on the world. Bye. Hello and welcome to part 14 of this RFEFP series. Al-Biruni's azimuthal equidistant projection. The flat earth map. The real world, where Australia is very real, but is certainly not down under. Now I'm Nibi, hoping you're doing very well on the other side of the screen, as truth will never damage a cause that is just. So azimuth means the horizontal angle of a bearing clockwise from a standard direction such as north. And equidistant means at equal distances the line joins together all points which are equidistant from the two axes. So azimuthal equidistant simply means the horizontal angle at equal distances parallel to the plane of the horizon. Now, where did the original azimuthal equidistant map come from? Let's call it the AE map. Well, this was known by a man called Al-Biruni, who was born on the 5th of September 973 AD and passed on in 1048 AD. He was a first-rate scholar who was interested in all branches of science, though it was as a mathematician and an astronomer that he will be most remembered for. But in the FE community, he is also known as the creator of the AE map. He was an excellent critic who read widely and had a very good understanding and knowledge of Greek scientific sources, and was extremely interested in the Indian scientific studies, so that he could and did compare the different cultural streams that came the way of the Muslim intelligentsia of his day. Now, in the geographical field, it was mainly the mathematical and the astronomical aspects that interested him the most. Here he was specialising in those aspects that had been strongly neglected by previous geographers, and thus one might expect to see an improvement in Islamic cartography. Now, among the projects Al-Biruni mentioned in some detail was the measurement of the degree of latitude. He produced a new method of measurement by using a mountain from which the flat horizon could be studied and observed from. He measured the difference in longitude between two places using the difference between them in miles. So he produced a result for the longitude of Ghazna east of Baghdad, setting out the benchmark, so that it was there for any later scholars to improve on, which they did do big time with circumnavigation. Now, for those who are not really in the know, Al-Biruni criticised the projections of Ptolemy and Marinus, the globular projections, because Ptolemy was right with the geocentric stationary Earth with epicycles for the luminaries, but was wrong with the shape of the Earth, as we in the FE community know that the bald, obleted, oranged, spinning Earth is just a science fiction story sold by Scientology and computer-generated imagery. So in Al-Biruni's works, he gives the explanation behind his projection, on which would be known today as the azimuthal equidistant projection of Earth. He also made scientific comments on the distribution of land and water on the face of the Earth, the flat Earth. Al-Biruni's latitude and longitude refinements, my friends, are incorporated and are copied and used Perhaps the most accepted piece of information from Al-Biruni was not just the AE map, but was the distribution of land and water because of the eastern extension of southern Africa towards China. Now, this was a prominent feature of the Islamic world map up to Al-Biruni's time, which is now discontinued. Now, Al-Biruni's only direct contribution to cartography was the sketch map showing this distribution, the circular world map showing just how independent his thought was from the contemporary standard of Islamic and otherworldly cartographers. Yet, today, my friends, in 2019, NASA certainly knows who this man was, as they have given a so-called moon crater his named honour in some kind of recognition, and a full statue of this incredible man actually resides outside the United Nations for reasons I'm sure you can already guess. But for those who do not know, his map, the azimuthal equidistant projection, is used by many organisations all over the plain Earth today, famously used by the United Nations, where sits his statue. His map was also used in laying the very first cable and wireless lines across the plain Earth, and is obviously used by all navigators, sky or sea, in one way or another. Now, this is not, and I will repeat this, my friends, this is not the globe flattened out into a 2D image, because we already have the globe as a 2D polar image here with Antarctica and Australia. Now, why do you think they do not accept this picture as their flag? Because they are in very different comparison to what we actually see with the azimuthal equidistant projection of Earth and its continents, as Australia is very different and Antarctica is non-existent. So let's just take a look at this picture for a moment and see which actually makes more sense as the crow flies. Now, this map, my friends, has not only been circumnavigated to the very degree by longitude and latitude in miles. The sun's path, his trajectory, has been mathematically calculated to the very minute everywhere he goes above the plain Earth, as he never says. Now, Gleason can explain it in much more detail, and this is the map, and it's the same map. Now, surely, my friends, Al-Biruni, Parallax, Gleason, all of the others obviously realised that the AE map is not the globe projection flattened out or anything of the sorts, because the AE map predates all other known projection maps, contemporary and uncontemporary, and Al-Biruni rejected the globular model for a very good reason. The reason they use this map is because it is real Earth. But sadly, we are in 2019, and with all the technology that we have, there is no actual real picture of plain Earth. There isn't one, as it's far too big to get the full image. And the bottom line, my friends, is very, very serious. Every single picture or video that's taken from above the Earth at any vertical limit point, the Earth will always and obviously be shown and taken and seen as completely flat. And this is a fact. The powers that be have simply tried to convince you in some way that this AE map is a polar projection of the globe flattened out. And this is a downright lie, because closer inspection will always take you to the very beginning from where it all came from. The Al-Biruni azimuthal equidistant map projection is a very real flat Earth fact on the plane. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, and as previously mentioned, please keep posted as we have something in the works, but it does take time to get it right, as I do this for no profit and use my free time, so I just want to get it right, but it does take time, so please bear with me. And I'm not talking about Baloo or Paddington. Please take good care of yourself and keep flat. I will see you in part 15 and something else that is in the works. You take care on the other side of the screen. See you soon.